Hey everybody. You know it always cracks me up now with this countdown now. It just makes me feel so
No,
big, like it's a countdown,
it's a
right?
countdown.
Um, but I hope everybody is going to get to see this. I am with the fabulous Scott Allen, who is a medium. And Scott, I'm just really so excited that we get to do this
Me too.
and just get to be able to tell people what the event is all about. It's coming up Thursday. I'm just so excited. I'm really excited.
I am too, and I'm putting. I thought I put it on my site here, but I'm going to do it right now because um, the countdown really is on. I know you were talking about the countdown. The countdown's on. You know,
It
we've got
is.
today's Monday. We're doing this on Thursday in Wareham, and I'm excited because I've never done an event in Wareham before, so this will be great. I've worked with La France Hospitality on a number of occasions. I've done shows at their New Bedford location, and I've also done Westport, and I'm going back to Westport again in October. So I thought, let's try out a few more of their venues, and this is one of the others, and I hear it's a great little venue in Wareham.
You know what? I love that. And what I'm excited about is I also have never been to Rosebrook Event Center, but
Yeah.
I've never done an event with another medium. So I know you have. I know you've done by yourself. You've done it with other mediums.
Right.
This is like a virgin, Scott, with you
I'm
Thursday.
gonna I'm gonna pop your mediumship cherry tonight on Thursday night. We're gonna do this over at the and sorry. I mean, this is what you get with me. That the messages are heartfelt, the messages are real, but the sense of humor sometimes goes a little off the board. So what can I tell you?
I think
But
that's beautiful. I think you need it, Scott. I really do. I think you need the sense of humor with this because this always brings so much emotions too, and if you can just pull in a little bit or a lot of bit of laughter, I think that's a great thing. So, but listen, let me ask you to do this because I've never done this with another medium. So tell everyone who's watching how this works with two mediums.
Well, I think it can work in a number of different ways. The way that I always do it, and I like this, is that so the demonstration is from 7 to 9, right? So typically one of us will come out first, whether it's you or it's me. I usually give a little introduction, and I always tell people, you and I are not in competition. This is about them and spirit coming through to deliver messages.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it doesn't matter if I get more readings than you or you get more readings than me. It's whatever comes through for the people. But what I find so fascinating about this when I do events with other mediums is that they will see mediumship from two different perspectives because mediums are never the same, and how
Mhm.
we get our messages is not the same. Some mediums go direct, some mediums do this general in the audience, some mediums draw and the picture comes out on the screen. um, some mediums get their messages clear audiently or clear sentiently. I tend to get some of that, but I also get a lot of clairvoyant, claircognizant. I get a lot of like detail that way. And it just doesn't matter. Every medium I work with is different. So I'll come out and I'll give a little introduction, and then I'll turn it over to the other medium and they'll give a little introduction about what they do. And then we just go at it. We just go back and forth. You know what I mean? I've seen mediums say, well, I'll take the first hour, you take the second. But I kind of like being on the platform together with
Mhm.
another medium and just sharing back and forth. Chris Brown is in the audience. Chris Brown is a medium from up in Maine, and I've worked with him. We have a couple of events planned
Hey, Chris.
in November. Good to see you, buddy. Um, and so I like going back and forth like that. And sometimes we double link, and it doesn't always happen. Sometimes it sort of happens uh, kind of organically, I guess you could say, but I've enjoyed that. Yeah. Can
You
you
know what?
tell me how many people? Yeah. Gina's asking, I'm just looking at the chat here. Can you tell me how many people will be attending? I don't know. I would say between 40 and 50 probably would be my guess.
And we won't know Gina until Thursday, but that's a good guess. I was going to say, Scott, if you're someone who, as you mentioned, draws things, I want to be the first portrait. Just saying.
I'm
So
not, and I always tell people, unless your mother looked like a stick figure, you probably might not recognize
I
her.
I love that. You make me skinny. I love that, Scott. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. I tell you, we should have advertised this differently. We've actually got two larges here on Thursday night, not two mediums, and so that's sort of how it works.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Speak for
Yeah,
yourself. I'm a medium. Just saying. I'm a medium in all senses.
there you
So,
go. There you
but
go.
I'm so excited about this because
Yeah,
as I mentioned,
good
I've
time.
never been in an event that I've had another medium with me. But Scott, I got to tell you, I love the fact that you brought up this really is about the audience. It's not about ego. It's not about competition. I love that because it's really about, whether we're by ourselves or whether we're with another medium, we come from the same place, right? We all want to just give these messages to everyone who's in the audience. And I always say that, you know, even if you don't get a direct hit, and I'm sure you agree with this, Scott, you know that spirit's smart enough to know that they're going to throw things in that you're listening and saying, I think that's my dad. That's my dad's name. That's blah, blah, blah. I love that. I love how spirit is just so smart that they will do double and triple, quadruple validations all the time. So, which
Well, and
is
I
a great.
always say that they're smarter than I am. They know what you need, and I don't need to know what you need. And I don't even need to know what I'm saying. I don't need to understand it because it's not about me. It's
Yeah.
about you, you know?
We're just the messenger, right? That's
Yeah.
all we are. And and for people to if they're wondering how you and I came about too, we were introduced by Doc Echoes, right? With when we were filming you filmed, I filmed,
Right.
and that's really how
I think that
this
was it. Yeah.
all sort of came up. I think, even though ironically we've never met in person, so that will
Oh,
be Thursday.
and ironically, even more ironically than that, is we've been on the same episode. And I thought that might have been the night that I met
I
you.
know, and we left, and you came just a little bit
We came
afterwards.
after you. And what was fun about that, I don't want to give too much away because did it come out for season one? Was that season
Yes,
one?
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
came out.
then I'm going to say it because you had gone through this waterfront property in Orleans, Massachusetts, on Cape Cod. And you had gone through. I was not the medium on that episode. You were, but you can't separate the two. So I
Mhm.
was there. And as I was going through, I went into this room, this bedroom. And as I got into the bedroom, I came up with the name Rosa. And there was another name, and I can't think of it now.
Mhm.
And the person who was holding the camera said, "Oh my God, that's the same name Steven, the same two names. There were two names. Those are the same names Steven got." I said, "Get out of here." you
Yeah,
know,
no, no. Listen, no big surprise at all. I'm not surprised,
we were in the
especially
same room,
yeah, and the same day too, right? Because
same
we
day,
left,
same room, same
we
everything. Yeah.
left.
You
Yeah,
were gone and I
exactly.
came in.
Yeah, which is just listen, I'm leaving the same energy you're walking into, so the same spirits, the same loved ones. That's just how this works. So, but if you are interested in listening to this now or gonna see this Thursday at the Rosebrook Event Center, Scott and I are going to be there. It starts at 7 p.m. And listen, anytime you can go into an event or a venue and have two mediums, two for the price of one, that's the best thing. And what else are you doing Thursday night, right? Thursday night, just come out to Wareham and come see us. That would be one of the most wonderful experiences anybody could have. And you just go to Eventbrite, and that's where you can purchase the tickets. I'm sure, Scott, I have the link on my website. I don't know if do you have it on yours also on your
You have
website?
it on my website, mediumscottallen.com, and your website. Is it stephenthemedium.com?
StephenTheMedium.com.
Yeah.
So you can either go either way. Maybe that's easier because then that will link you right into getting the tickets at Eventbrite. But I'm really excited about it, and I'm sure for you too, Scott. It's happened. Like you talk about events or different events, you never, as you mentioned, you don't need to know, but you never know what is going to happen in these
No,
events, right? You
no.
absolutely don't. And I did an event yesterday, which I usually do like every 6 weeks, 7 weeks or so in Yarmouth at this place called Dunn and Sons. And as I was driving with Elix, my husband. He was driving. I say he's my bodyguard, which I'm so sad he's not going to be here. He's leaving Wednesday for Atlanta and coming back Friday, and he's really, really disappointed too because he wanted to see how this would work, and the two of us. In any case, we were driving, and he's driving. I'm in the passenger seat, and I just felt like this. And there was a guy in the back seat in spirit, and kept saying, "Bring up Julia." So I told Elix about it. Elix is so used to it. After 32 years of being together, Elix knows everything there is to know about me in spirit. And of course, it was validated in that venue. But it's just amazing how spirit gets to us, some right at the event, and sometimes even before. Sometimes I don't even know they're there. They're just around and sort of just waiting for me to get to the event, and sort of planning who's speaking first, and they know who's going to be there. It's I will never hey Jennifer, I'll never be able to completely understand it, Scott. I don't know about you, but every single day I learn something. Every single time I do an event, I learn something, and we're learning as much as the audience is, right?
Well, and I'm going to share something with you right now. I find fascinating. And this is what I talk about. When we have two mediums work together, you realize that we do things differently. That's just how we are. We're different people. We get things differently. Now you're talking about getting there and all of the people that are showing up, and I get there, and it's funny because Chris Brown will tell you this. He's very similar to me in this way. We'll sit there and we'll look at each other like 5 minutes before we go out. And I say, "You got anybody?" He says, "No, nothing." Nothing. And then I get out there and I give my introduction, and boom, they show up just like that. And it happens in the moment. And hey, Harry, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Yeah, so it's kind of funny how that happens for me, and other people I work with have it all not planned out, but they have their whole list of people before they get there. I don't. I get out there, I start talking, and they show up.
But that's what you said, Scott. Hey, Liz, I love how everyone's coming in. It's just, as you mentioned, Scott, every single one of us, and many times when I do readings, that's what I say to people. If it doesn't matter whether you've been to another medium or not, because we're all so different, right? Some of us can have similarities, like you just talked about with you and Chris, and some not so much. But you know what? At the end of the day, the messages are the most important piece of it. So it doesn't matter whether they show up the second you're ready to chat or they're there before, right? Who cares?
It doesn't matter when, or it just matters that they do.
Exactly. And I think it's kind of cool too, even from the audience perspective, to be able to see Thursday night how there may be differences and maybe similarities. I think it's just really, really great. I did do one Zoom event with another medium. Just it worked so well. We're not live, but people were coming in. It was a Facebook an event. Maybe it wasn't Zoom. It was a live Facebook event, I think. And it was really cool how the two of us were just interacting and with the particular person. And I always think, or we would deal with it when like someone came on that I knew. I would say, you know what, you can take this person or start with this person because I know them, and vice versa. So I'm sure people that are gonna be at this event, I don't know, maybe you do, and maybe vice versa, right? I mean,
yeah, maybe we know. Maybe we won't know anybody. Who knows?
Absolutely. I think the greatest thing for me too is even when I do my events, I tend to not look at names. I tend to look clearly at the amount and whether it's full, whether it's not. But I don't look at the names. I don't want to know. Like when I get there, I just don't want to know. I just want to be surprised and know and try to figure out where I'm being pulled and where I'm going to the particular person. So it's right. Just. It's crazy. So Jennifer said, I love being in the audience with two mediums, seeing different styles and hearing different messages. Well, Jennifer, you know what? Thursday is going to be the same way. So.
Jennifer's great. Jennifer's been to a few of my events, actually.
Oh, she has?
Yeah, she's been to a few. I like to say I have groupies. She's one of my groupies.
I love really, that. I love that.
Sort of, kind of, not really. She probably would say, no, I'm not a groupie. I just show up. But she was just at one of the recent Dark Echoes events that we did live back in.
Oh, nice.
And she came all the way down to Connecticut for that. I think she's got family down there. But yeah, it is so true. And I'm a fan for sure. Thanks, Jen. We appreciate you very, very much, Jennifer. It's funny too. I am actually really excited to see you work because I already know from the types of events that you do that you get your information differently. Yeah, truthfully, I'm just very, very interested to see,
I think it's going to be in the same here for me. I think uh, that's part of this. I think the energy just gets so big and so heavy and so like in the as maybe you do this too, Scott, you pick up from the energy of the audience members too, and it's just it just is it's a I always say it's when the magic starts, right? When you're at these events, it's just when the magic starts. So and that's what I mean. Your friend, I think you may know Harry. I believe it's so true. I believe the audience needs to be receptive as well. The medium cannot always break down walls. Harry, that's it's really true. I'm not a physical medium, but I've been to one seance, and I thought it was pretty unique how in the physical mediumship world, how it is mandatory for the audience to be active and to raise their energy. Like I think so many times they have the audience holding hands, and to get that sort of energy so strong that the medium who's doing that physical mediumship has all of that energy. But to a degree, and maybe the same degree, I think what Harry just said is so true. If you've got a great audience and great energy, it just helps the whole night, doesn't it?
Well, and this is why I love doing platform mediumship so much, because there is a certain energy with all of the people in the room. And I also feel like I'm not going to call it stage fright because I don't really get stage fright, but there is something about that energy of standing up there that kind of heightens it for me. When you sit across the table or across the desk from one person who may want a message, but is kind of blocked because they're in grief or whatever it is that they're managing, it can be a little more challenging. But when you get out there, you know that someone in that audience is going to get that message, because they're not going to, it's almost like they're not going to go for the weakest link. You know what I mean? They're going to go for the one that's got the biggest connection. However, when you are sitting there and, Harry's talking about the person that's blocked, they're still going to get something from that experience because they may not even know they're blocked, but they're going to see the messages and the messages that, yeah, your loved ones are there. Mine are too. Just because they didn't come through to me today doesn't mean that they're not there. They're standing behind those people, perhaps. That's just kind of how it is. Lexi, love this conversation. You were both amazing. Thanks, Lexi. So good to see you.
Thank you, Lexi.
Yeah.
And also, I think too that because this is a time restraint, right? It's not like we have this group and we're going to be there like into breakfast time and having eggs the next morning. People, the spirits that come through, I always say that you always, you don't get what you want, you get what you need. So that's how they're sort of selective in how they come through and how they actually give these particular messages or so. But I think what you said is correct. Even if someone's coming in and is just so grief ridden, even if they may not get something then, when they get home, they'll get something. Because when I did my event yesterday, I always tell everybody, feel free to pull your phones out and record this, because when we're looking at least for me anyway, when I'm looking at people, I always say it sometimes makes the person I'm reading's brain freeze when I'm like, who's this? What's this? Who's this name? What? It just, there's a lot, right? There's a lot going on. And I remember a funny story, Scott. I paid a bill. This was about a year or 2 years ago. I paid a bill and it was after 5 p.m. And these ridiculous, stupid rules that, it was like a department store. You have to pay by 5, and I paid it at like 5:30. So I got a late fee. So I had to wait for the bill to come, and I called and said, listen, I never had a late fee. Can you reverse it? And she was cool. She was fine. She did it. But she said to me, I know this is weird. This is the customer service rep. And she said, I know this is weird. She said, but I pick up things sometimes, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, she has no idea I'm a medium." But she said, "You have a lot of energy," and she said to me, "Who's Ann?" And I'm like, "Ann," and this was like a work thing, and I'm like, "I don't know." And so she said, "We'll keep it with you." Now here's the medium, right? That's saying, "I don't know," and so we hang
Yeah.
up, and I'm like, oh my God. My mother, who, she passed away a couple of years ago, who was my best friend. Her middle name was Anne. My grandmother's Anne. I'm like, how the hell did I not remember that? Right. But it
Yeah.
happens. It just, my brain froze. I'm like, Anne, wait, Anne, I don't have any Annes. And then my grandmother's probably kicking me. And my mom, I think my mom was, maybe it was more than 2 years ago, because I think it was, my mom was still here. In any case, it just goes to show you that even as a medium, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get something right there. Some people are so quick, and they like, boom, they get it, and some people are like, I don't know, and I'm like, just keep it with you, and that's how it works, right?
I'll tell you a funny story. Chris and I were in Charleston, South Carolina in May, being an event in the historic district. And the reason I was down there is I have family that lives in that area in Charleston and just outside of Charleston. So I went down with my son. I went down, and then my cousin was there and her husband, and then my mother's cousin and his wife, and they're all family. They're sitting at a
Right.
table. Now, I never have anybody come through for me, and I don't know what it is. I think it's because I'm the one that does the reading. I'm not the one that gets the reading, and it's happened on a rare occasion, but not very often. So I sat down. Chris gets up. He's doing his thing. He describes this woman. He comes up with her name. He says that she just mentioned that she was not just the mother, but was also like a mother to the grandchild. So she was a grandmother and a mother. Talking about going to Florida to visit family. There was a lot of different things that came up. And I sat there and I said, listen, folks, for everyone who bought a ticket tonight, I apologize, but this is my mother. My mother had passed a couple of years ago myself. And
Wow.
I thought, that's just never how that is for me. It just, I wasn't expecting it because I was working. And this is exactly how my mother would operate. Like, I can talk to you anytime. I want to talk to my cousin who she was very close with. And we did drive to Florida. They lived in Florida. We drove down there together to see them. She was like the mother and grandmother to my son. I mean, there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So
It's Scott. It's amazing. I love how wonderful that was, that you got a message in your event from your mom. I mean, I think you said Chris is the one that delivered it.
Chris delivered it. I mean,
Yeah, kudos to Chris. I mean, that's pretty amazing that he tied into your mom's energy. And hey, listen, you were there with family, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Which is great. So I love that. I see Chris saying that was wild.
It was
Chris,
wild.
clearly
Yeah.
that was wild. I mean, that was pretty wild. Hi, Anna. Again, as we just mentioned, this just, you never know what's going to happen in these events. And there's been times I've done events, and I've read the bartender, like, who's just there to give drinks to everybody, right? Or the server walking by, I mean,
We
again,
pulled people out of the kitchen. Come on,
yeah,
go get the cook.
yeah. I mean, it's wild how you
Yes.
just you don't know, and even for us, we just don't know who's coming through, and they know, it's already set up because people need these particular messages, but for us, we don't know. We're just again, the messenger, which I love, right? I mean, I do, but you've also had this for a while, right? This
Meaning
this
the
this whole connection.
the gift, right? Yeah, it went from being a curse to a gift. It wasn't always fun. And it's funny, when I wrote my book, I went back and I was sort of looking to see how far I could recognize signs. And it was there as a child. I wasn't seeing dead people. I wasn't, it's never been how it is for me. But it was there, and I could see that the signs were there. And then probably like, I don't know. It was really, to be perfectly honest, right around COVID, where
Mhm.
things kind of really ramped up and accelerated. And I have a similar story to you, and I will say this to people. I've always been sort of fascinated, and my mom was fascinated. And years ago, I mean, I'm going back like a couple of decades. She wanted to see Sylvia Brown. Sylvia Brown had come to Boston. And so I took her to see Sylvia Brown, and she walked right by us, and she started talking to us, and she looked at me, she says, "You're psychic." And I looked at my mother and I said, "And she's psycho, because that's not," and you had said that too. And I was like, "My God, that sounds like my story." I don't even know who your medium was, but that mine was Sylvia Brown. And my mother laughed and I laughed, and that was the end of it. But
There was it's exactly Scott. That is exactly absolutely the same thing that happened, but I didn't know anything when I was a kid. Like I wasn't getting much of. I just did not know anything. I mean, I went to school. I went to law school, became an attorney, had a
you're
practice.
a thinker. You're a thinker.
Yeah, and it had nothing like there was nothing there. And Elix and I, my husband and I, were at an event, and it was the same thing that the medium came up to me and said, "You're a medium or psychic, and you don't know it." And that's when the light switch went on. It's something also, and it's just my preference. I've never disclosed in my book or any place else which medium did it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the Irish stubbornness in me. I always wanted to walk this path by myself. Yeah. And I wanted to sort of create this by myself and not link it to anybody else. So very, very few people know. Well, clearly Elix knows, but very few people know. And, it's not a big deal, but it's just something I've never sort of shared. Yeah. But it is very similar to you. It's when it's like at that second, okay, Stephen knows now, Scott knows now we can go to them. And that's really what started with me. All of a sudden, it was like this. I had so much anxiety, almost debilitating anxiety when it happened, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I had anxiety anyway with my dad taking his life when I was 8 years old and all of that kind of stuff. But I had anxiety through the roof. There were times Elix and I went to a restaurant and I would just get up in the middle of the meal, Scott. I would just, because the anxiety, I was so out of control and it was so chaotic. I couldn't sit there anymore. Started pouring sweat and I had to get out of there. I started feeling like people are all staring at me. And it was all, what was happening was everybody in spirit was like, all right, now you know, and we want you to give our loved ones in the physical world messages, but I didn't know how to do it. So, but thank God, it all sort of started. I took classes and it started opening up and I started getting to a place of understanding it more so. But that's, that's tough. And I think if anybody is going through that now and feeling like, I think I'm getting things, I think I'm feeling things, we're with you. It is not easy, but I always say, just believe that if you're on the fence, just believe that it absolutely is a message versus going the other way saying, I think that was the wind. I think it was this, or I think it was that, because I'm sure if you think that, it is your loved ones in spirit and you're connecting, which is a great thing, right? So, and I just noticed Matthew's here.
Matthew's here. I saw that. Yeah.
Hey, Matthew, two of the best mediums. Well, one of the best producers, we think too, Matthew, just saying. So,
he's all right.
It's sort of. And Jennifer just said she'll have to look at tickets. Jennifer, I would love for you to be. We would love for you to be.
She's not actually all that far, I don't think, from Wareham, where she lives, if I'm not
mistaken. So
Jennifer,
then just get your feet moving and get there Thursday. I know you're gonna love it. So I know I'm gonna love it. So which is,
we're gonna have a good time. I was trying to show you something. I wanted to show you something, but you're talking about how you opened up and everything, and it was really fascinating for me. Let me tell you, WebMD is not your friend when you're looking up mental illness. I was pretty sure that's what was going on with me at the time, and I never had mental illness before in my life. There had never been any signs of it. Once I learned, so I started recording things. I would record. I was hearing voices through the radio, and even when I would do, still to this day, podcasts. When I would do podcasts, they still talk to me sometimes. I'll go back and I'll edit the recording and I can hear them. Hi, Scott, on the recording. But here's the thing. If I knew if I could hear it and you could hear it, then it couldn't possibly be mental illness, right? I mean, I was probably possessed. I didn't know that was better, but it was at least not mental illness. So I started recording everything, and I have all these recordings of spirit coming through my car, coming through my phone, coming through, anywhere they could get a message to me. And it was directed at me because they would always say their name was David.
But was that like a guide, or was that somebody you were connected to?
Well, interesting. I mean, it's a long story, and it is in my book, but just to give you kind of the condensed version, years later, after not knowing who David was, and he's still around. I mean, he'll still talk to me. He just came through a couple of weeks ago with my friends Candace and Derek. We were
Hey,
somewhere.
Dave.
He's like, pick it up. Right, it's David. Okay. But I was living in a place, and my next door neighbor, the parking spaces were like right next to each other. So I would see her occasionally. And one day I was driving home, and my mother calls me and she says, "Hey, I went to the senior center today. They had a medium there." And I said, "Oh, that's great. Did you get read?" "No, I didn't, but it was great," that kind of thing. So I get out of my car, I get off the phone with her, I get out of my car, and in comes my next door neighbor. She's pulling in next to me. I said, "Hey, Laura, how you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm good. I'm exhausted. I'm just on my way back from the senior center." I said, "Oh, son of a gun." I said, "You go see the medium too?" I said, "My mom was just there." She says, "Oh, she was." She says, "No, no, I am the medium." I'm like, "What? What?" So she tells me she's a medium. And I'm like, okay, that's just too coincidental. So I had never had a conversation with her outside of the parking spaces. It was always like, "Hi, how are you?" kind of thing. Never went up. She invites me up for coffee. She says, "Who's one of three?" Nobody. I'm one of two. My father was one of like 9. My mother was one of 2. My grandmother was one of 2. I have no idea. I don't know anybody that's one of 3. She said, "I'm pretty sure it's you." She says, "Did your mom lose a child?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure if she had, I would know it." I mean, my mom was kind of an open book. She says, "No, I'm really thinking it's her." She said, "Who's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Who's got the D name? Who's David?" And I went, "Wait a minute, what?" "David. That's the name that's been talking to me for years and years and years and years." So I had a conversation with my mother, and I said, "Did you ever lose a child?" I think I know the answer, but did you ever lose a child?" She says, "I think I did about 9 months before you were born." She says, and then it was like I was still pregnant. So I don't know what happened. And I really have sort of gone with it. I sort of feel like it's this absorbed twin, or, lost a twin, that kind of a thing. I don't know. She came up with it, like, where'd the name come from? And it's been there all along.
Wow.
Another weird thing too, and this was really weird for me. This was at the very beginning. I had contacted a medium because I said, "I've got this spirit after me, and I know it's no." I was already confident it wasn't mental illness, because if you have mental illness, do you know you have mental illness? I don't know, but if I can record it and you can hear it, right? So
Right.
I'm playing these things for her. So she pretty much convinced me that he was coming to me because he wanted to be crossed over. He was stuck, and, I can help him. I'm like, "Well, I can't. And I don't know why you would think I could." But I had this whole session with her where she crossed him over. And it was the most profound experience, because I remember when he crossed into the light, it was almost like I was confronted with the love. It was like walking by. Have you ever been to like Florida and you go by a building and door opens and there's air conditioning and you're like,
Yeah.
that's what this was like. It was like this feeling of love that emanated from that light that I didn't even really believe at the time. And then when he crossed, I just sat there and was in tears. It was almost
Wow.
like I'd lost my best friend. Now, this is something that had scared me for years. So how is that even possible? Right. So I started to buy into it a little bit, but it still took a while after that to really, really come to terms. And I took some classes because I wanted to see, what I was capable of. So it's a process. It's a process.
It is. I mean, absolutely. And I think, you know what, in I love that story, Scott. That's such a beautiful story. I think one thing I noticed too when I'm reading people is that I've never seen so many people that are just connected. It's just
Yeah.
just a lot more people that I feel are connected. And when I feel that and bring that up in a conversation or ask them, it opens like this beautiful can of worms of someone who may not want to say something, or may not even think they're putting two and two together. Like you said, like you may not even know, but it's just, I think it's where we are. I think so much of it is technology and so much energy around, and because there's also so much anger in so many parts of this world. I think that even the energy is like doing this, and I think people are picking it up, but I think people being connected more so is just such a beautiful thing. And I love when people just, again, veer more towards, that was someone in spirit, versus trying to rationalize it like that, that was the wind, or that just happened because of blah blah blah. So it's this whole line of work, especially for me, coming from an attorney, an attorney and a medium. It's sort of different. And people would say to me, and I still get this, people would say to me, well, more so when I was practicing, because I left the whole attorney world to focus on this. But when I was practicing and doing both, people would always say to me, so are you a spirit telling you about the cases? Is spirit telling you that this one's lying? Or, and I'm representing kids. But I'm the states, I'm the public defender, so the state's coming in, and so they would ask me that. I'm like, you know what, spirit does come to me when I'm sitting in court, but it's not about the cases. That's too much, I think, too much interest for me, or too much, like, they wouldn't do that. But what they do when I was in court was I'd be sitting there, and all the attorneys would be sitting. They most courts have where the public sits, and then you have the swinging doors, and there's seats on the other side of the swinging doors, and that's like sort of saved for attorneys if there's seats open. So that's where I would usually go, and I'd always be sitting left to me or right to me, an attorney, right? And then I would hear, to the right of you, that's my daughter. Like, tell her I'm here. And I'm like, so they wouldn't give me answers. They wouldn't help me in my cases, but it was more of, oh my God, listen, I am waiting for my case to be called, and I have to be prepared, which I am, but I have to be like, my mind has to be full throttle on representing this kid or the parent, whoever I was representing. But so that's always my answer. Yeah, they didn't give me any help with my cases at all, because it's just not something they would do. But they definitely would be like, yeah, so what? You're doing a case right now, Stephen. That's my daughter. You're sitting next to her. I want a message to her. Tell her it's me. So, and I did. I got to tell you, I read so many judges' clerks before the judge would come out. I would walk up to them, and Elix would always love hearing me. I would, especially when I was in Worcester, I would be like, I don't know, 20 of 10, I would call him. He was like, you're not done. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Because listen, you get to read a clerk, and you bring their mother, father, brother, whomever through. Those clerks in court, if anyone here listens to this, they know when you go into court, it's not the judges, it's the clerks that run the gig, right? They can, if you are like pissy to them, they'll make you wait till 4:00 to call your case. If you have got one case, they were like, yeah, they control the courts. So when you're on their good side, Scott, I loved it. I would come in, Stephen's here, don't go too far, your case is being called, and I would be always out so quickly. So it was and I didn't do it for that, but it was a win-win. I got to tell you, it was a big plus, a big help when I was in court.
Yeah.
So it was. Listen, we do a lot of this work, and there's things that I think spirit sort of smiles back down on us. Like, I'm sure when you were with Chris, and Chris brought through your mom, I'm sure that spirits that are in that venue for everybody else said, you know what, let's give something through Chris for Scott of all the work Scott does. And I'm sure for Chris, the same thing. So, what, they're good like that.
Well, it's funny, and not to, it's not this kind of thing, but Chris, I remember going to one of Chris's, this is back when I was just really new at this, and I went to one of his demonstrations, and his grandmother came through. to me sitting in the audience. And generally speaking, if I go to another medium, I'm not tuning into anything, but remember sitting there thinking, I wonder if I can pick up on anybody that he's picking up on. And I didn't. It wasn't my message to give, so they didn't come to me. But his grandmother was standing right there, gave me her name, I was able to describe her. It's just, wow,
There's
wow.
no, sometimes there's no words. And I'll tell you, Scott, the first event I ever did, and you said I don't get stage fright. Well, Stephen gets stage fright. I was petrified going into this first venue. It was like 50 people. And I was in this little closet room, if you will, listening to music. Elix was handling everything. And then Elix came in and said, like, 5 minutes, I'm going to introduce you. And my legs were shaking and I was so nervous. And I remember saying to my grandmothers, all my grandparents I never met, they were dead before I was born. And I said to my grandmothers, just be with me. Please just be with me. And don't you know, the first person I read, her name was Rose. The second person I read, her name was Anna. And those were my two grandmothers. But of course, when the first one was Rose, I shared that. After I did the messages with this woman, Rose, I shared that. I told everybody in the audience, oh, this is what I asked for. And then the second one was Anna, and I told them too. So that put me at least a little bit more relieved, if you will. And I, once Spirit started, I was good and stuff, but it's just the way it is. And, hello, Dennis. Dennis, who I know, he just said him and his wife will be there. So I love that. I love to get to see people I do know. So Dennis and Marie, I'm really excited to get to see them. Elix knows them extremely well. So I'm just going to make sure I stick it to Elix. Like, I'm going to get to see them and you're not. So that's just how I roll, Scott.
Yeah. I mean, it's all right. That's all right. I'm sure if he could, he'd be there.
Oh, he doesn't miss any of my events. Honestly, he really doesn't. He's with me. He loves listening. He loves people. I always say to Elix, people don't want to see me. When we walk in, people are like, Elix. I'm like, they're not here for me. Maybe they're here for messages, but they're really here for you, Elix. Because Elix is a love bug. Everyone loves Elix. It's just who he is, Scott. So time-wise, I think I need to wrap this up. So so Thursday, Scott, right? So Thursday, get your tickets. Go to Eventbrite. It's at the Rosebrook Center in Wareham, 7 p.m. You can go to stephenthemedium.com. Or Scott, tell everyone your website.
Yeah, mediumscottallen.com, ALLAN. And either one, it'll take you to the same place and you can get your tickets there.
Listen, you just do not want to miss this. As we talked about at the beginning, I am a virgin. I've never done another reading with another medium. So I'm always usually a loner, and I am so excited, Scott, to be with you. And that's why actually this was my idea. I reached out to you and said, I was talking to Elix and said, you know what? I really want to do an event with another medium. And the first person I thought about, Scott, was you, just because of who you are and your energy. I know you are such above and beyond your connection. I know you are just a great, authentic, genuine person. And I thought, if there's anybody I want to reach out to, it would be Scott Allen. And I'm just so excited that we got to do this, or we're going to get to do this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a nice night.
I think so. I'm very excited. I know we'll chat before Thursday, but Scott, and also thank you for doing this. I'm glad that we got to do this, and I know people will see this as it's going to be sitting everywhere on your pages and my pages. Right. So, clearly I will be doing more advertising until Thursday. So I know it's going to be a great event.
Yep, definitely pushing it out there. Thanks everybody for joining us. It's been great. Thanks for joining the chat.
This has been wonderful. I love it. And I hope I get to see everybody. Me and Scott get to see everybody Thursday.
All right. We'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.